workflow, I think, is something that not everybody has a real strong sense of. If they're setting up a new lab or a new system or something, they may not look through all the different pieces that they need to and take all the things into consideration. So I'm wondering what you've seen is maybe some of the biggest mistakes that people make when they're setting up a new workflow, and what can they do to, what kind of things can they do proactively to make sure that they're not making those mistakes in the future?
In terms of the person that's setting up the workflow, or is that what you mean?
Yeah, whoever's actually doing it.
Well, first of all, I wish I knew then what I know now, or at least what I think I know now. I strongly believe that you can improve people, or definitely improve the people experience by improving the process.
Okay.
I think that begins with documentation. The outcome that you would like to have. I think it then is the steps of what is the first thing in that particular service cycle. Then I think it's involving the people that actually perform the work to add their input. But first of all, when you're documenting the steps, I think you should do it as if you were going to delegate to someone that's never worked in the hospitality or service industry before, and the mindset should be that. Then when you document the steps of the individual process, as I'm saying that, I also realize that making sure that people understand that systems or smaller processes like gears work in a larger gear system. What the people do in the maintenance departments has a huge effect on indirectly on what people do in the sales position, which has a huge effect indirectly on the admissions, if we're talking about the theme park world in particular. But once you've documented those steps, then you look for ways to not eliminate just for the sake of eliminating, but eliminate perhaps by automating it. And anything that you can't automate, you look to possibly delegate or outsource. But again, employee involvement is really important. The people that do the job have to be involved. And I think people tend to stick to the policies and the procedures that they're involved in rather than the ones that are dictated. So I kind of went off script as far as I think your original question is, what are the mistakes that you make is not doing those things, not documenting it. If you think, when am I going to have time to document all these systems? Well, you just do it one small step at a time as you're doing the work. If your job is one of the processes is to do reports, then as you're making those reports, just jot down. Again, technology, I'm not a huge expert in screencasting software, but there are some things you can just take a picture of take a snip tool of the screen as you're doing it, as far as computer-based type things, or take a picture of someone in the correct position on a slide entrance or a slide exit, or the correct body language when speaking to the guest, because sometimes people learn faster and more effectively what they see rather than what they're told. So what mistakes to avoid? Hopefully not doing any of the things that I've mentioned. I know I've kind of started to ramble a little bit there, but hopefully that's along the lines. I'm sure tonight in bed I'll think of more answers.
That's kind of what I was looking for. I think you've got a great point of getting the people involved that are already doing it, or that have done things like that in the past, so that you get all of the details and the nuts and bolts of what would be important for that particular, how you go from point A to point B to point C.
Yes, I think that, first of all, work processes and checklists and things like that, they're not sexy, or they don't have the connotation, but they're so important. And if you think you don't have processes, you absolutely do already. One of the worst things that I've actually heard myself when an employee is training another employee is to hear the words, well, this is how you're supposed to do it, but this is how I do it. And that's saddening in a couple of ways. One, because you're not getting consistency, and second of all, if that other way is better than the way you're doing it currently, then everybody should be doing that. So it's sad in two ways. But definitely not documenting things or not thinking that you have processes or not thinking you have time is definitely. I wish I'd have known a few years ago or realized it. Then rather than later, but documentation really important.
Yeah, and documentation is huge in so many areas that we tend to say that we don't have time or we don't do it well enough. And I think about even employees. When we're documenting their behaviors and documenting if they've done something well or if they haven't met the standard. To make sure that that's very, very specific. And I would imagine that's the same if you're charting out a workflow, that you've also got to be specific and really, again, kind of crossing your T's and dotting your I's there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would just add, I'm sure there's probably a zillion examples, but you can just learn so much, from other people, especially if you think you have more experience than them. For example, testing pool water, very common in the water park industry. One day I was watching someone and they actually turned the sample jar upside down in the container, and they said, "Oh yeah, I realized that it dries out faster and you don't have water and all the chemicals, all the testing reagents don't get messed up." And I'm like, what a great little step to add into the procedure. And that was someone, a lifeguard that had only been working there for a few weeks, had just passed on. So that's, again, an example of the people that you don't think have the knowledge or experience that can add to the process or eliminate some steps or make it more. I guess the buzzword is optimization.
Yes, exactly. Awesome. Thanks for watching this episode of LeaderTips Q&A. If you liked what you saw, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you can be notified when new episodes come out. If you have a question for me, or if you'd have a question that you'd like to see addressed on a future episode, go ahead and put it in the comments. Thanks for watching.